Hello, Ignite Circle members. Gloria Grace Rand here. That's good. I can't even say my own name this morning. Oh, well. Anyway, welcome. I'm doing another Spotlight member interview today, and I am pleased to welcome Kim Eagles here. And she is one of our members and going to tell us a little bit about who she is, where she's from, and what kind of business. So take it away, Kim.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here. So I'm Kim Eagles. I come from Eastern Canada, so I'm in Moncton, New Brunswick, which is the east coast of Canada. So nice big snowstorm hitting us today, but whatever, we'll take it. So my business is Chaos Solutions. I'm a clutter coach and a professional organizer. And I help people clear out the clutter from all levels of their life. So mental, physical, emotional, where they're all connected. I do like to deal with people on all those different levels, and I help them get their shit together is kind of what I say.
Very cool. Well, is there a particular type of person, do you have like an ideal client that you'd like to work with?
Yeah, I have my ideal client, and the people and the women that I work with the most are normally 45 and up. So most of them are starting to get into the stage of life where their kids are a little bit older. If they have kids, they're moving into transition. So they're starting to look at how they're living, what their life looks like. Maybe they're thinking about downsizing in the future. Or they're in the process of downsizing. Sometimes they're going through a divorce, which happens a lot after kids are grown. It's quite interesting. So most of the women that I work with, and the ideal women that I work with, are going through that transition of now getting into, I have time for myself, I have time for my life, and I no longer want to live with all this clutter around. I no longer want to be so disorganized that I can't think. I'm just so overwhelmed, and just there's too much stuff coming at them, or there's too many things in their space, and they're just ready for change.
That's awesome. So when you work with someone, then do you kind of focus on the physical stuff first, but then as you're doing that, you kind of realize that it's more of the mindset that has kind of created that, or what is that kind of what you find, or is it the other way around?
For the most part, most people will identify with me and call me first because of the physical stuff. That's the stuff they see. It's the visual stuff. So, if you ask anybody, who's Kim? Well, she helps you declutter your space. So decluttering is definitely a big part of it, but it moves very quickly into the attachment to the stuff and why it's there. My job really is to help people evaluate what's going on, why it's going on, what the underlying issues are, so that we really change that mind frame about the stuff. And it really changes the internal, and it changes the emotions. And, sometimes I'll have ones where we have to actually deal with some emotions before we can touch anything. But for the most part, people call me because of the physical stuff. And whether I actually go into their space, or whether I coach, because I do a lot of virtual coaching as well, it's really helping them move through the process of how do you declutter, how do you let go, how do you move through that, and most people need help with it.
Is there like a common theme have you seen with people, like the reason that people are stuck and have so much clutter?
I don't know if there's a common theme. Like, everybody is so different. Everybody has a story. Sometimes it's trauma that's happened in their past, so they hold on to all this stuff because it represents something they're holding on to in their past. A lot of the times it's learned skills. Being organized, I think the stat is 15% of the population in North America are naturally organized. So
Wow.
the rest of the population has to either learn the skill, or they live in chaos. So it can be a learned skill. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll be a natural thing for somebody, but you can learn it. And a lot of people don't. So if they've come from a house and from a household that had, those tendencies, and, hoarding is kind of the high level. Not everybody is at that level, but if you don't ever learn how to let go of stuff, and you don't ever learn how to get organized, then it becomes a struggle your whole life.
Wow. That's very cool. Yeah, I know definitely both. I've had this experience of both. I know my mother, when we sold our house and we're getting ready to move to Florida. I mean, she had accumulated like 40 years worth of stuff in the house, and she had to have somebody come in and say, first it was like, okay, if you haven't used this in like the last 5 years, it's time to go. Then it was like, you haven't used it in like the last year, it's time to go. And then even I went to my sister passed away about a year ago, and I had to clean out her garage, and she still had stuff from my dad who had passed away like 20 years earlier. And I was like, really? Why were you holding on to this stuff? So when I came home, I went on a decluttering mission. It inspired me.
And that's what's happening at this point in time. That's what I see happening as a really big, the women that I work with, or the families that I work with, they're going through that transition of thinking about downsizing, but I want to say they're almost in this sandwich situation where their parents are either passing away, or their parents are going into homes, or their parents are, also downsizing. And there's this big wave of stuff that's coming down. And the reality is we don't want all their stuff.
Yeah.
Like, we want maybe a couple of things. We'll take a few of their things, but we don't want all their stuff. And then the next generation, like my kids who are now in their 20s, they don't want anything.
Oh, I know. My kids are like too.
They're not attached to anything. If it doesn't fit in my daughter's backpack, she's not interested. Like, it's really, really interesting. So we now have this big wave of things that are like, what do we do with them? So it is a big issue. My next book coming out in the spring is all about downsizing. And it's kind of my parents' story of downsizing them a couple of years ago, and the process that we went through, and a little bit how much harder it was to work with your own family.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
and the emotions that kind of come out of it too.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, one question that I've been asking everybody in the group is, if you could describe, or someone else maybe has told you, like, what is your one superpower? I have a feeling I kind of know what it is, but why don't you share with it what you see as one thing that you're really good at?
Sure. It's funny because some people would think that I'm going to say organizing, that would be my superpower. And I actually wouldn't say that. I think if you ask any of my clients to really evaluate what my superpower is, it's being calm. It's having that ability to walk into a room where chaos is going on and they're overwhelmed and they're just feeling so, like, a lot of them are dealing with anxiety and all this stuff. My superpower is to be able to go in and say, okay, breathe, right? And just ground people and calm them down. And then take it step by step, because I think that's the biggest issue, is that we get so overwhelmed, we don't even know where to start. So for me to be able to work with people, it's not because there's lots of people who can go out and organize your stuff. But if you can't calm people down and move them through the process so that they work through that process, then they're going to be right back where they started 6 months from now.
Awesome. That's very good. Well, I appreciate learning about you and your business. Now let's get maybe just a little bit personal and learn a little bit more about you. So what is, if there's something that you're like especially proud of that you've accomplished?
I really thought about this a couple of times over the last day or so of, what I'm really proud of. And I think there's lots of things. I could say my business. I've been in business for 12 years. I wrote a book, which a lot of people haven't done. I have a second book coming out. But honestly, I have to say, personally, what I'm most proud of is I successfully navigated motherhood. And I have two pretty spectacular children who I just see so many characteristics of things that they learned that I didn't even realize they were listening to. So their ability their work ethic and their thought process and their problem solving is all stuff that I know came from, my working in my business, my husband's working and all this stuff. So I would have to say my biggest thing that I'm proud of is being able to spend that time over the last 20-some years of raising our kids right, teaching them people skills through example. Through living our life the way that we've lived our life, and, through the ups and downs and the good times and the bad times. I say raising them successfully so they no longer live with me. So.
That's well, that's something to definitely be proud of, and you should be commended for that. And very, yeah, it's a blessing. I know I've got two awesome kids too, and I'm very blessed that they have turned out well as well. So
I
it's
just hear
nice.
so many horror stories
Oh,
of
yeah.
kids, and you hear the lazy millenniums and that. It's like, I don't see that. I don't see it from them. I don't see it from their friends. It's like, I really see I really see a good future coming about, but I see that they've learned differently. They didn't learn it in school.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule this morning to speak with us. It's been a pleasure learning about you
Yeah, thanks for
and
the
what.
opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a reminder to the rest of the group, if you haven't taken advantage of this opportunity, I encourage you to do so, because I think it's great for us to be able to learn about each other, learn about each other's businesses, see maybe there's opportunities for either referrals, or to do business directly with each other, or what have you, or joint ventures, who knows. But I enjoy doing this, and it's been wonderful learning about all the awesome people in this group. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Kim, and I'll see you again next time.